Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to another segment of Complete Wellness with Cindy, the Busy Woman's Cheerleader. This is the channel where women from all walks of life can stop by, get tools and resources to help them thrive 360 in mind, body, spirit, and finances. I invite you to stay connected, subscribe to this channel, and visit me online at thecindyrand.com. Now for today's segment. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to another segment of Complete Wellness with Cindy, the Busy Woman's Cheerleader. So super excited as usual to be here today. But at first, let's do a little housekeeping.
Entrepreneurs don't just need annual tax pros. They need an accounting partner that understands the nuances of their industry all year long. Envision Tax and Accounting Services supports you and your business with full-service accounting, bookkeeping, payroll, tax services, and expert business consultation, delivered by a team with over 3 decades of experience. Innovative entrepreneurs trust Envision Tax and Accounting Services to create smart systems, leverage the right technology, and build financial processes that support long-term growth and profit. Whether you're just starting out or an established company or a nonprofit, we meet you where you are. Customizing virtual or traditional accounting solutions that fit your workflow, budget, and goals. Got questions? We've got answers. Contact Envision Tax and Accounting Services today to schedule your free consultation. Visit us at www.etaaservices.com or by calling 407-951-1492 and let us help you enjoy your envisioned business. That's www.envisiontaxandaccounting.com or 407-951-1492.
Awesome. Our quote for today is, "Success is stumbling from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm." And that comes from Winston Churchill. How about that? Woohoo! All right. So I am so excited today to have our guest here, Billie Aasen. Billie is a dynamic entrepreneur, speaker, and change maker. She's the CEO of the Festival Company, Canadian-based, which is a powerhouse known for producing and marketing large-scale live events in and across North America. Billie is also the owner and executive of Extreme Mudfest, Canadian's large mud and music festival. But one of my favorites from Billie is the nonprofit that she has for mental health for youth, which is called Lifted. Please help me welcome Billie. Hello, Billie.
Hey, how are you?
I am okay. How are you? So listen, we've got a whole lot to unpack here. We've got a lot to unpack. But first of all, tell us a little bit about your journey and what basically led up to what you're doing now.
Oh man, I such a long journey. I don't know. I found music at a very, very young age. I came from a household that had a lot of love, but parents that also fought quite a bit. And so I really got attached to music because I could drown everything out, right? And as a little girl from a small town, I also had this big dream of being famous. And I thought if I was famous, it would be solved and I can have this big, big, loud voice. Fast forward a little bit to when I was 15, and my sister had sent in a demo tape behind my back to Canada's largest festival at that time, Mount Music Festival. And I ended up getting an opening slot for Loretta Lynn, which was huge and it was so much fun. I'm giving the quick Cole's notes here, but I ended up actually landing a management deal off of that. And by the time I was 18, I was in Vancouver to an artist, but I also wanted to pay down some investment money that the management company was putting into me. So I decided to volunteer my time at the Active Mountain office. So I worked from 7 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon for free, routing, theaters and tours and learning everything that I could, just kind of being a sponge. And then I'd leave at 3 o'clock and I'd go into my restaurant job/jobs, because I worked quite a few back then. And I really, really got immersed into the business behind the music. Fast forward from there, when I was about 23, I was introduced to my first ever show site in Bellingham, Washington. And I knew so little that I literally said, yeah, let's open a music festival. Great idea. I didn't even know that I needed a US visa to go down. So the first sponsorship deal I ever cut was actually with an immigration attorney as our presenting partner so that I could get my
Wow.
visa to the States.
Wow. Wow.
And it worked great. He ended up being a dear friend and mentor for years and years. And that first festival was the most expensive education of my life. That's what I
Wow.
like to tell people. So,
Okay.
you know, we lost $157,000. I was not prepared for that as basically a child. By the time the
Right.
festival, when I was 5 years old, um, but I paid every bill and I learned a lot. I learned what not to do, which is sometimes more important than even knowing what to do. Um, I was able to kind of brush off my wounds and say, I've learned it. I can do it again and I can do it better.
Hmm.
And at that time, I actually ended up going in house with my music agent from prior to, or an agent that I used to work with. And I was introduced to something called talent buying. And so what that is when you're the broker, it being a festival property or an arena or a venue and the artist teams, and you bring in the talent. But because I'd already owned my own festival and kind of had my butt handed to me a little bit, I didn't want people making these same mistakes. So I decided to take, my background of working in restaurant hospitality and then my background of knowing what it takes to put on a festival, more of a hospitality focused talent buying company where we would not only broker the talent, but we'd advance the whole show. We'd fly out, we'd run the whole back of
Okay.
house so that that producer could focus on the show.
Hmm.
Fast forward from there, we got a great reputation with the artists and being able to help people, where we actually started getting hired full service to build actual brands. And the first one was actually Extreme Mudfest. So I was hired to create a brand for a Canadian band that had a single mud. And I thought, motorsports and music, it really works. And they had an investor at the time. And we ran the festival and it was successful. But the investor decided it wasn't for him. He didn't like festivals. Turns out they're a lot of hard work. They're not
Yeah.
everybody's
Yeah.
cup of tea.
Yeah.
And anyways, we ended up taking the festival over. That was 13 years ago now. And now we've got Mudfest Gold Lake, we've got Mudfest Bonnieville. We just did Mudfest Abu Dhabi, and we are going into Moses Lake, Washington as well this year. So 4 properties, which has been a pretty great growth trajectory. So we've had Mudfest, and then I've done a ton of other festivals. We've worked at BC Place Stadium. We've got Rock the Lake Festival in Kelowna. We've done about well over 100 festivals at this point. Through my career, I've been able to kind of grow up though with all of these,
Yeah.
different people that were starting as interns and are now executives, and artists that were just starting their first, tour and now are selling at arenas.
Wow.
And one of
Wow.
the Smith.
Wow.
And so Dallas contacted me in 2019, and we're dear friends and we had another business together, and he said, I want to start a youth mental health foundation. Mental health is something that's really important to him,
Yeah.
obviously,
Yeah.
as it is to a lot of us. And so I did what I tend to always do. I was like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
Not really knowing what I was getting myself into.
It's a
But
lot.
the timing Totally. But the timing was very serendipitous because I was going through in vitro over the time. My husband and I had been trying to get pregnant for like 3 years and it didn't happen. So I was going through my own mental health stuff and really getting a better understanding of how it affects everybody's day-to-day lives. And mental health isn't just one thing, you could be a kid that doesn't have enough food on the table and that's a mental health issue. You could be a kid with a disability and that becomes a mental health issue. Like there's such a broad range, which is actually what I love about the foundation, because we now say that we use our megaphones to shine light on issues, raise money for them, and help fix them. So we started this. I got pregnant with my twins, and then my twins came significantly premature, like 2.5 months premature, and we lived in Children's Hospital for 4 months.
Wow.
Um, my daughters both came out with different levels of ability. So now I was a new mom with preemie babies, running a company, starting a foundation, and having 2 children with disabilities. And, the world kind of felt like I was being hit
I
constantly
can
with a
imagine.
tsunami.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, the serendipitous point of it was that I was starting to see all these holes in the system that I just needed to fix. I didn't want anybody to continue to go through what I was going through. So because we had started the foundation, I was able to look at a bunch of different things and say, hey, I'm really passionate about this, let's fund it. So BC Center for Ability, for example, there's kids in the BC region that have cerebral palsy, like low lying, and they want to ride bikes, but they need a special kind of pedal to ride bikes. And when you're a kid, you want to go out and you want to ride bikes with your friends, and if you can't, that sucks. Like, you feel left out. You don't get to have that normal social bonding. So the center had a carpenter in Vancouver that was doing 100 of these tests a year. And I went and sat with them and said, what do you need? And they explained this to me. And they said, we're fundraising for a 3D printer so that we can actually print a pair every single day and actually fill the whole need of what we need annually. And so I said, well, how much does it cost? And they told me, and I said, done. And we funded it. And now they have that. Um, One of our big donors had contacted me, and there's a hospital here in British Columbia, the Cranbrook Hospital, that services the entire East Kootenay region, so a lot of people. And in Canada, our healthcare is funded by the government. There's pros and cons to that because they only do so much funding. So if something is, not within their budget or doesn't fall under their mandate, it doesn't get funded, and it can affect a whole bunch of people. So with this hospital, they couldn't hold any babies under 35 weeks, even if they're just feeder grower babies. So they were fundraising for a NICU, but they found a funding gap. And I mean, they were flying babies out daily to all over the province. And if you think of that financially on families, emotionally on families, like spending months away at a different, having to pay for food, having to get accommodations, having to leave your other kids, having to take off time off work, like
Right.
super difficult.
Mhm.
So Ian called me and said, do you think we could do a benefit concert and build an ICU? I was like, yep. So
That's awesome.
within a couple hours, it was just before the Country Music Awards, I had sent everyone a note being like, we're going to build a NICU, are you in? And when I flew into the Country Music Awards, everyone was like, yeah, let's do this. And we literally had every major artist in Canada come out and play this thing. And the NICU was just opened in November, which was huge.
Wow.
And so through this whole journey, I think, especially becoming a mom, like when you become a mom, things change, your perspective changes a lot. I like to say it made me a better entrepreneur, to be honest with you. But throughout this whole journey, I've realized we all have a megaphone, right? Like, you have a megaphone here, you have a podcast, you have all the women that are listening. I have a megaphone because I have big events and I have access to thousands of people. Celebrities have megaphones. A small business owner can have a megaphone in their community. But it's our responsibility to use that megaphone for good. Be the change you want to see and shine a light and make the
Absolutely.
change. If you see something
Absolutely.
catastrophic happening in a community, it's small businesses that jump up and use their megaphones and fundraise for the families or whatever's happening. So that's become a really big passion of mine right now, is teaching people that you can have a for-profit business and a non-profit element, and doing good is good for business, and it's your responsibility to use your megaphone to make that
Yeah,
positive
that social
change.
responsibility is very important for businesses. I would say a good bit acknowledge that, but always giving back. It's not like a cliche. Some people, have the mindset that, no one gave it to me, I'm not giving anything back. But sometimes you're not just seeding into who gave to you, you're seeding into your next generation. It's almost like a lifeline. You're seeding into possibly one of your family members, something good that you did, somebody else will reap the benefit from it. And so I think that's very important. When they sent me your information, I thought it was nice because basically, what you're doing with your live events, it's for purposes, mission driven reasons for, to help people, servicing people, not just to come together. And I'm very musically inclined. So that was like, okay, what is she doing with music? This is great. But to have a purpose behind it, a mission behind it, like you did with the NICU and then some of the other ones that you've worked with over time. And I'm going to ask you that in a minute. But, the bottom line is servitude, is serving. A lot of times, again, people, they have their hands out, but what are you doing for somebody else? Even if it doesn't directly affect you, it's like a lifeline. It's like a
Yeah.
lifeline. So my
And I
question,
think
go ahead. Mhm.
gives people purpose too, right? Like it's great to build a business. I love building businesses. I love entrepreneurship. I
Yeah.
always like anytime someone wants to build something, I'm like 100% their champion.
Mhm.
But when you can do it and have a bigger cause tied to it, the
Yeah.
game changes completely.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely, Case. Absolutely. So, what would you say out of all of those that you've done over the years, besides the NICU, because I can tell that that is a close ticker to the heart. Besides the NICU, what was one of the experiences, or I would say outcomes, of one that you did that was, purpose driven, and it was successful?
Oh man. Actually, I will say one of the most unique ones that we did was when we actually first started the festival, or sorry, the festival, the foundation. Um, it was in the middle of COVID. So in Canada, everything was shut down.
Oh
We
yeah.
had all of our who couldn't get back to work. Like mental health issues in the music industry were a real thing. Like you had people that used to be on tour all the time and were, financing their whole families and everything else. To have all of that just stop and no future of
Yeah.
income and what that looks like
Yeah. Yeah.
was near impossible. So what we decided to do is we got a little bit creative and we started doing hotel festivals. So what we did is we bought out hotels that had balconies and a courtyard. And we marketed it saying the party's in your room. So it could be like one, if you purchase a room, it was you plus three friends. You could pre-order your drinks. You could, have your charcuterie in your room. Then you go onto the balcony and we'd throw a 3.5 hour long festival in the center.
Awesome.
It was one of the most magical things, Cindy, on just so many different sides. Number one, having our friends back together on stage and like just see the passion you could see
Yeah.
behind
Yeah.
what they were doing and being
Yeah.
able to do what they love was so important. It was getting them back to work so they actually felt like, hey, I might still have a future here. An artist works so hard to get known, and then something like that happens and all that work and money spent can go away. But the interesting trickle effect was the emotional effect it had on everybody in the crowd. The people that were on the balconies just crying and being able to be with friends again. And yeah, it was only four friends, but they were, playing beer pong with other balcony suites, and they were, cheering each other and saying hi and introducing each other. Like we were not meant to be alone as human beings.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
this
Absolutely.
is it, right? Like isolation is one of the worst things that you can do. Even
Yeah.
if you're an introvert, like everyone was hitting their wall.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
I'm
we did
part
that and
introvert, so I can speak for I can speak for them.
totally,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like even you probably started to be like, this is a little bit much.
Well,
And so
you find things to do. But when you're talking about them coming back together, during the course of the pandemic, and basically what you were hearing when they would sing, that was a portion of their souls. And I say that because um the nonprofit that I spearhead, a Grateful Mind International, some years back, we did our first compilation album, and it was all genres. And I remember when we were going through the music, and again, by me being musically inclined, it's like I could feel the passion behind the words. We were trying to narrow it down how many people are going to be a part of the CD. But it's like I could feel the passion. It's like you want to just take everybody. It's like everybody, yes, 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 yes. But you could feel the passion behind music. Music tells stories. It tells stories of the soul. It tells stories of your journey. It tells stories of, time to come, what you're expecting. It tells stories. So to have it, I would say, purpose driven, mission driven, that's a completely different level of music. I mean, one that really words can't express. You have to experience it.
yeah, and like I said, it really was the kickstart of using megaphones for good. So like everything that we do, we have music involved in it. We have a really cool pilot program actually coming together right now where we're gonna
Awesome.
pick X amount of schools and we go in and we give them a bursary for their instruments. So
Yeah.
10 to $20,000 for the school for the
Okay.
instruments.
Okay.
But then we go into the school for a half day and we talk about, making the impossible dreams possible and shooting for the stars and leadership within your school. And then we do a concert with it. Because a lot of artists, I mean, they got into music because they needed an outlet to talk
Yeah.
about what was inside.
Yeah.
And you constantly hear that from a lot of people, their love of music. is literally because it was their lifeline, like you
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's my lifeline. I thought I was going to be the one on the stage. I'm now the one building the stages. Doesn't matter
Yeah.
at
You're
all.
still there.
Um,
You're still there in that arena. You're still there. That is absolutely
so
beautiful. So this other question, how do you define success? How do you
I
define success? What is your definition, Billy's definition of success? Because I asked you earlier, I said, which event was most memorable for you besides the NICU that was a success? You know, tell me, what is your definition of success? How do you define success?
To me, success is a feeling. It's not a physical thing of all the things you can buy and what you can do. Because when you have that drive and that purpose to do something where you literally want to wake up every single day and do it, and to the best of your ability, it fills your soul in a different way. And for me, that is these events, and now having the purpose piece with it has been a game changer for me. But if I were to define it in kind of one sentence, success to me is building a life that you don't get vacation from.
Say it again.
Success to me is building a life that you don't need a vacation from,
Okay.
because every day you want to be a part of it.
Okay. Okay. Um, I would agree, and I would add, um, it's to your specifications. A lot of times people define that word to another person's or another group's, measuring stick, their ruler,
Yeah.
as to what success is. Success is a personal definition. If you complete a goal, you check it off. That's success. If you start something and
Mhm.
finish it, that's our thing for this year. Focus and finish. You know, that's
Yeah.
success. If you set out to run a half a mile and you actually run a mile, okay, the fact that you made that half a mile was successful, but then you went the extra mile, that's even more successful. I'm always like interested in finding out what people's definition of success is, because a lot of times, and I say this preaching to the choir, I'm my own worst critic. Okay. So whenever somebody says, well, oh, you're so successful, you've done this, you've done that. Okay. To whose standard? You know,
Well,
because
I think it's
like for myself, I'll never say that I've arrived, because I'm always a work in progress. I'm always looking forward to something new, or to growing, like you did your mud festivals, the festivals. You grew it from one to the other. So you're always looking to grow, not just become stagnant because you had a successful event. You want to continue along your terms, your
yeah.
success.
But I would add to that, Cindy, and failing is also success because you
Yes.
actually tried. You
Yes.
actually set a goal and you went out and you tried, and maybe it didn't turn out exactly how you thought, but you were successful in being brave enough to get out there and do the thing, you know?
And you
Now you
tried
can look,
again. Yeah.
yeah, and you can do the next thing and the
Yes.
next thing. And,
Yes.
you know, there, you always hear the stories of people saying, well, I'm going to be successful when I've made 100,000 is my business. Well, then they hit the 100,000 and they're like, oh, well, I need to do this. And then I need to this, or I'm going to be successful when I run
Precisely.
my first half marathon.
Yeah.
Well, 3 years down the road, they're doing marathons and triathlons. The middle moves depending on where you're at in your season of life. You know, I find one of the things that I'm very, very proud of, and not, it's interesting as an entrepreneur because it's probably the opposite of what people would define as successful. But I feel very successful that I have two little girls who are 4.5 years old. They know mommy works, but they have an experience of having a stay-at-home mom because I've designed my life to
Awesome.
be such
Awesome.
an intricate part of their life when they're out of preschool, and we can go horseback riding and we can go to gymnastics and we can go and do those things. To me,
Yeah.
that's really successful because they get that experience and I get that experience because they're also once, right? I could turn around and say, I need to make this marker and shoot for it, which of course I am a business owner. We have those milestones, but I could have made it so much more large and then worked more and more hours. But then would I have felt successful when my children were this little? Would I have turned around and said, I wish I could have spent more time? Time is something that we don't get back. And
Oh,
so for me, right
absolutely. You read my mind.
then,
Absolutely. My mother said that to me one time, and it just clicked on all types of elements in my brain. And she said, listen, she said, don't waste time. She says, once that time is gone, Cindy, you don't get it back. You know, um, that was like a turning point for me mentally, because when you're younger, you're really not, I don't want to say you're thinking you're indispensable. No, I will never say that. What I will say is you just figure you have these small numbers and you've got time. But as you begin to calculate these numbers, you realize you wasted some time that you can't get back. So everything that you do in front of you going forward, you have to make it count. You have to make it count. It has to be impactful. It has to be aligned with purpose. It has to be aligned with your destiny, where you're supposed to be at this point in particular, time. It all has to align and it all has to make sense. We don't have time to waste. We do not have time to
yeah,
waste. So, I was going to ask you about the balance, but you hit it. Your balance
I would
is
say
making sure
that,
that your children also know that though you work, they are equally as important.
100%. And I think for women specifically, this word balance, everyone's like, how do you balance it all? What's your balance? It's not a real thing. Let's be very honest. When I am kicking ass at work, I am probably failing at something at home. When I am 100% with the girls in the afternoon, I'm probably, missing an email or should be on a certain one. I can't be on because I'm with them. It's not about balance, it's about choices. What are you going to choose with this time that you have in this season of life that you're in? I also know that my kids are going to go to kindergarten and I'm going to get more time back and I'll build X, Y, and Z then. My kids are going to grow up and go off and start their own journeys in their own lives. I'm going to have more time then. My biggest purpose right now, or I guess my biggest project right now, is have you ever read the book Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell?
I have not read it. I've heard about it.
It's great. I suffered massive burnout about 2 years ago, and a really
Wow.
good friend of mine was like, just read this book. And it's all about buying back your time so that your time used is super impactful. And especially as a business owner, because you want to do all of it, right? Like nobody can do it good enough. No one will do it as good as you. You have to, make sure the P&L is right. You have to do the invoices. You got to do the marketing. You got to do the operations. You got to be customer. You got to take the trip. You got to do
Yeah.
the speeches. Like
40 hats, 40 hats in one head.
yeah, totally. Like, what is it that you can actually hand off to someone because it's their zone of expertise
Mhm.
and you can trust that they're going to do it? Of course, you got to check it. But if you 80% done by someone else is absolutely fantastic. So if you can buy back some time, and for me, if I can buy back time where, I have someone come in and clean my house and do laundry so that I'm not doing that. Instead, I'm out in the yard with my kids or we're going on an adventure. If I can buy back my time with even little things like grocery deliveries instead of spending X amount of time in the grocery store, or buying back my time at work where there's a position that I could probably hire a contractor for to get a project 80% done. I'll do the first 10, the creative piece, where this is the vision. They can go in and execute X, Y, and Z, and then I'll put my magic spin on it in the last 10. But I bought back 80% of my time so that I can be more impactful, whether it be at home or whether it be building the foundation, or, I just got back from speaking to hundreds of kids in the Okanagan on leadership and mental health. Like, I love that kind of stuff. So
Right, right.
being focused on, I think, is really important. And that's where I'm at in my season of life right now.
Awesome. That is absolutely awesome. When you made mention of that, the word balance, somebody the other day asked me uh, about the mind, body, spirit, Thrive 360, on purpose, mind, body, spirit, and finances. And I was telling them, they said, well, how do you achieve it all at one time? I said, you don't. You don't. It's about knowing what needs to be done, what you need to spread yourself across, and doing the best you can, even if it's a little bit each day, to make sure
Yeah.
that all of those areas are beginning to balance. It is always a work in motion, a project that is ongoing, a personal project that is ongoing. Because if one is up, the other one is down, one is in the middle, the other one has been forsaken. So when you balance those things, not in perfection, just with intention, do the
Yes.
best you can to feed those four corners of your life, that allows you to operate at some level of balance. But me personally, I do not believe that any one individual can consistently achieve that, one versus the other. It has to
Mhm.
be a balanced scale of doing a little of each every day. So when you say
Yeah.
that about that balance, it was like, yeah, that's what we say, this mind, body, spirit, and finances. All of these things have to work together in tandem. If not, something is going lacking. And that something is
Yeah.
going lacking is inside of you. It's inside of you. So a little bit of each thing every day. Like you said, you work and you've got to take calls, you've got to take emails, you've got to deal with the kids, whatever else is going on in your life personally. You deal with a little bit of those each day to your
Mhm.
successful standard. And that allows you to have that line of balance with all that you're juggling. So let me ask you
Finding
this.
your
Go ahead.
times that work, right? Like I operate very well early in the morning.
Me
I get
too.
up at 5 a.m.
Me too. Me too.
I like have a coffee. I sit in the hot tub. I do my stuff. I'll send my emails. But one thing that in the this year specifically that I have a really big focus on is fitness. I'm coming into my fourth decade and I want to be healthier in my 40s than I was in my 30s. And why do I want to do that? Because I want to play soccer with my grandkids.
Mhm.
Be good to me so I can be good to them. So I got a personal trainer. I'm doing X, Y, and Z. Could I have done this 3 years ago when the girls were one? Not a chance. There's no way I could have done it. But what I did do in between was knowing that I needed to like kind of make fitness part of my mental health journey because I needed to move.
Yeah.
If I was taking a conference call, I was going for a walk and doing it. You know, if I had a book I wanted to read, it wasn't, no, I don't have to sit in front of the fireplace, cozied up with that book and do X, Y, and Z. Like I can read for 10 minutes before I go to bed instead of having to sit down and read the whole book
For an
in
hour.
X
Yeah.
amount.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like like you say, it's the little things, or people always ask me, how do you get so many big projects done at once? Well, I set time aside and I work on it an hour a day. You'll be so surprised how far you
Yes.
can get if you
Yes.
just work it. And then
Yes.
eventually you get better
Yes.
at it and you're like, you
Yes.
know what? I'm going to have that half day on Monday and I'm just going to do that. I'm going to shut everything else off and I'm going to do this and
Yeah.
push
And
the
complete it. There you go. Absolutely.
forward and
Just
then keep going.
chipping at it, just like anything else, You're building something, chip at it a little bit at a time. Next thing you find out, this big mountain that you thought was, not able to be conquered. You've conquered a mountain because you've chipped at it a little bit at a time, little bit at a time, little bit at a time. So
And
I've enjoyed this. Let me ask you this. What would you tell your 21-year-old self at your age now? What would you tell your 21-year-old self?
don't change a damn thing. Just keep going.
All right.
I'm
Just keep going. I love it. I
going. Put your
absolutely.
do the work, keep going. People look at, sometimes their 20s and they're like, I wasted all this time. I got out of university or whatever, and I spent a year and I partied with my friends, and I could have been building, I could have done this. No, because you guys where you needed to party with your friends and have fun because you're not going to be doing that in your 30s and 40s,
Well, hopefully not. Yeah.
Yeah, life changes a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, be, you need to meet yourself where and you get down and do the work, go do the thing, go fail a little bit to feel what failure feels like, but mostly to know that you can get out there and do something. Try everything, go out and have fun, explore the world. If you want to change something in your life, change it, habit stack it, do little things every day, move towards that big goal. But don't ever get stuck in this perfect perception of what life and business and everything's going to be, because I'll tell you what, life happens when you're making plans, So set yourself up for success and being strong in who you are, work at your goals every day, take risks, fail, and just go for it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed our conversation. We'll have to do it again soon. We will have to do it again soon.
Yes, thank
All
you.
right.
Yeah.
I have enjoyed speaking with you, Billie. I really have. And we'll have Billie's information in the description. Billie, tell people how they can get in contact with you.
Instagram is very easy at Billie Jo Aasen. Cindy,
Okay.
I'll put it in the link.
Mhm.
And if you're a female or an entrepreneur and you're building something, you need a little advice, DM me. I'm happy to chat at any time.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. I love it. Billie, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Are you looking for a savvy speaker to add value to your upcoming event? Cindy, the Busy Woman's Cheerleader, empowers groups across the globe to thrive 360 on purpose in mind, body, spirit, and finances. As a dynamic speaker known for delivering insight in a relatable tone, Cindy brings real-world experience, practical strategies, and an energy that keeps audiences engaged from the very first minute. She's a thought leader, serial entrepreneur, author, leadership coach, humanitarian, and purpose pusher that produces impactful dialogues. Her style blends clear expertise with authentic storytelling and humorous candor, making even complex ideas attainable and actionable for every audience, be it faith-based, co-ed, or secular. Whether your goal is to empower, educate, or spark positive change, Cindy creates an inclusive environment where people feel seen, motivated, and ready to act. She's now accepting new speaking engagements. Book the Busy Woman's Cheerleader today. Submit your request by email to thrive@thecindyrand.com or online through www.thecindyrand.com. Make your event most memorable, and remember, together, we can thrive 360 on purpose.
Thank you again for tuning in to Complete Wellness with Cindy, the Busy Woman's Cheerleader. Follow me on social media at Busy Woman's Cheerleader. Remember, together we write our stories, share our journeys, create memories, and leave our marks in history. Until next time, peace, blessings, and joy be multiplied to you. Ta-ta.